Thank you very much. Dan, please.
Everybody smell what's in the air? Yeah, it's testosterone and it's Monday Night Football coming Monday. And we've got a few football packets left, right? And so Kevin was telling me to raise money, we give it away, and this is for the bike helmets. We had 100 books to sell. If we sold them all, that's $2,500, right? There's 17 games. We pay out $50. That's $850. Ralph, you checking my math? Good. Okay, and it costed $150 to print them, so that's $1,000 cost, $2,500 to sell them all, we made $1,500 profit, right? So far, we've only sold 64 of them, so we're at $600 profit currently. And somebody's, I know what you're arguing and say, Dan, you told me if I bought 6 tickets, I was guaranteed to win, because there's 17 games, 17 out of 100, roughly 1 out of 6 chance winning, right? So of those 36, coming back, 34 that we didn't sell, figure 32, and there's 8, so maybe we make another $400 because, the club's going to win a lot of these if we don't sell the last 36, right? And Ted, no. After Monday night's football game, if it comes out that 65 is the winning book, you can't buy it anymore.
Really?
No. It's too late. Okay, we aren't going to back pay on any of these. So, if you want more booklets, come see me afterwards.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you.
And Dave, if I don't have the cash, Kathy can put up my cash.
She can bill you. You bet. We'll bill you.
Thank you for that. Okay, Alexis Tracy has been state's attorney for Clay County since 2016. She has been a prosecuting attorney for over 15 years. Tracy received her bachelor's degree from the University of South Dakota in 2003 and her Juris Doctorate from the University of South Dakota School of Law in 2006. She was deputy state's attorney for Union County and a part-time deputy state's attorney for Turner County before being elected state's attorney for the Clay County in 2016 and re-elected in 2020. Tracy currently serves as the president of the South Dakota State's Attorney Association. She has served on the legislative committee for the association since 2007. Tracy was appointed to the South Dakota Open Meetings Commission by South Dakota Attorney General Jason Ravenberg, I hope I pronounced it right, in 2019. Tracy has been an active member of the local child protection team in Union and Clay counties while serving as a prosecutor in those communities. Tracy is also a member of the National District Attorneys Association. Tracy is a member of the VFW Auxiliary. Tracy has been a volunteer teacher for Junior Achievement Excellence through Ethics in Vermillion since 2013. She volunteered for the Judiciary Branch of the South Dakota Girls State from 2008 to 2019. She says was, but I bet is, a great lecturer for the South Dakota Drafting and Legal Practices course at USD Law School in 2017 and 2018. Please welcome Alexis Tracy.
Thanks for having me. I was looking back, and I think it was 2019 the last time I was here, so had a fun trip down memory lane when I pulled up my presentation from that time and really focused a good chunk on some of the physical changes in our office very quickly there after taking office. And so today, I just kind of wanted to give you guys some updates on what's been going on with us over the last couple of years and how things are going. If anybody has questions, feel free to jump in and shout them out. So one of the things that really has been rewarding for our office has been juvenile diversion, partnering with the Boys and Girls Club to utilize teen court as our juvenile diversion program. And so in 2016, there was mandatory court-approved diversion that the legislature put into place. The Boys and Girls Club of Yankton reached out to then State's Attorney Teddy Gertzman at the time, visiting about this. They had a grant fund to fund Clay County Teen Court for 2 years. And so in April 2017, we held our first teen court session. It's a voluntary program. Kids can choose not to participate. And so it really turns on us taking juvenile offenses that are either referred by the police department or cited by law enforcement, and offering kids will dismiss your juvenile citation or something to that effect, or not proceed on these offenses if you choose to participate in teen court. There's a lot of great benefits to that. It's more work for kids, so it's not always something that they want to participate in that regard, but they receive a number of benefits. Every child who comes through teen court has a mental health assessment, and so that's a really great opportunity to identify services and help them, and it's peer-to-peer accountability, which in our observation is far more successful to reduce recidivism than it is when you have a judge or one of us adults standing there telling what they should or shouldn't be doing. The grant funding ended in 2018, and we've been allowed to continue this program through the generous funding of the United Way, as well as the Clay County Commissioners. And we like to think this has helped encourage a partnership. You know, one of the things that our youth have had to do, Boys and Girls Club has been very resourceful, reaching out to the library to meet with kids there, meeting at the courthouse, going through different sources of things. But the kids in Yankton have really benefited from having a club there, that they can go do their homework, earn their CAPS points, check in with their teen court coordinator. And we are so excited, and I just want to thank all of you who, it's up here, a disclaimer, I mean, I'm not trying to claim credit for Boys and Girls Club. I wasn't able to participate at the level that some of the rest of you have in that regard, but think this is such a wonderful program to bring to our community, and really believe that this will benefit our program, the teen court program, and just youth in general in the community. And so I know we're starting out with those elementary school kids, but to have our teen court coordinator here in the community will be a great benefit as well. And as those of you who are involved know, there's still more to do. And so when you all talked about funding, I don't know if it's appropriate for me to encourage that, but I would encourage that too, because it's such a great resource to have here in our community. And so thank you to all of you who made that happen. To date, we had, so from 2017 through 2021, these don't include our 2022 numbers, we've had over 133 juvenile cases referred, 82 successful completions, 37 unsuccessful. And I give the caveat to that, we found out last year we were counting our numbers wrong, so if a kid didn't ever respond, like if we reached out, we referred them on to teen court and they just chose not to even respond or engage or participate or start the program, we counted that as unsuccessful. And the rest of the state apparently wasn't. So if they started the program, they didn't successfully complete, and they got kicked back, those are the unsuccessful numbers. And so we've righted that ship. But I think that's really interesting to note. 82 kids chose to participate in this program and successfully completed it. And they benefited immensely from that, far greater than they would have through our formal juvenile justice system. And then we have an additional benefit that the legislature put into place and that our judge has been receptive to. Our juvenile judge has actually court-ordered some kids to complete the program as well. We didn't know how that'd go because it was built upon the tenet of being voluntary, but those kids have benefited from the programming as well. And so that's been really rewarding to see that as some of our high-risk youth choosing to complete that as well. And we currently have roughly 10 active cases, all voluntary participants, not court-ordered. And so we just kind of continue to cycle through that throughout the year. We also have our own young adult diversion program, runs solely through our office. We focus only on underage alcohol offenses. This was implemented in our office in 2018. And you see some of the criteria there. It's out on our website. If anybody has a college-age student and they wonder what the criteria for diversion is, feel free to click on the drop-down tab. It's nothing fancy. There's no fancy pictures, but it'll give the basics for moms and dads and young people that want to know how to secure a dismissal on their first underage alcohol offense. Again, completely voluntary, and I don't blame young people if they decide not to do it, but we've had great participation there, and as you'll see, one number short of just that 250 even, but from 2018 to 2021, we had 249 successful completions of that program as well, partnering with the University Drug and Alcohol Counseling Association to complete Prime for Life, and that's been a really great opportunity. We tried expanding that to marijuana offenses in 2020. Amendment A was coming about, went through, and with all the uncertainty of things, we were trying to, and we worked with law enforcement on how we were going to respond to marijuana offenses in the aftermath of that. there's a Prime for Life 420 that we did try to work with the university about, and they were willing to offer the program. We just didn't have a lot of young people seize that opportunity. So due to a lack of participation, that was discontinued in the last year. We've contemplated expanding to adult diversion into other realms. I know this is kind of criminal justice reform, way of the future, and I would definitely embrace that. One of the things, and I think it's just a matter of trying to maybe go visit some of my colleagues, Pennington County is really big on this. They have a huge adult diversion program, and they divert felony offenses, various other types of offenses, and I would be interested in getting involved in that, but it definitely takes funding. It is run out of their office, and they have full-time diversion coordinators, plural. And so it's really a form of, I would say it's akin to probation before court. So it's great when it works. We've contemplated expanding to fake IDs. What I like about the whole diversion program is we're diverting someone out of the court system, offering them some resources because we hope to not see them back into the court system. And so my struggle with fake IDs is how are we encouraging an educational program to deter that, and haven't quite figured that component out yet to find programming. Felony drug offenses, and that's where we're at with insufficient resources, but you know, we know that drug problems permeate our communities, and I don't believe that we will prosecute our way out of that, but we do need to respond to them in some fashion, and right now we're kind of the arm of the system to respond to those things. So I'm not very transparently interested in expanding into violent offenses, domestic assaults, things of that. Colleagues, there have been a couple in the state that have expanded to that. I feel very strongly about prosecuting domestic violence offenses. There's a whole cycle of power and control that goes with that, and we could talk a whole other day on those offenses. And so I prefer to get some of the rehabilitative programming through the criminal justice system, have building offenses put on someone's record, because those are serious offenses. So we have not had an interest in expanding into those programmings. This is rough from a case log we keep in our office. Used to be kept on notebooks, we've expanded to Excel, of every case that rolls through that is reviewed by our office, whether it's declined to prosecute. If a prosecutor touches their hands on the file, you know, not every speeding ticket is going to be seen by us, because if you plead and pay that, we never see it. But if somebody has a court trial or something, they'll have that. Juvenile offenses, sex offenses, everything from, like I say, traffic offenses that we prosecute on up to homicide. So those are our case volumes. You'll see the huge drop in 2020 with COVID. People weren't out and about. And so, and then we started to climb back up. We needed some reprieve up there. When we were shooting over 1,000 cases reviewed in a year, that was really, really troubling to me. That's not something we can sustain, even with growing our office. And so I kept hoping, and that was gonna level out. Unfortunately, it has. And so we'll see where that takes us in coming years. These are the types of cases we prosecute. So the dark navy is the number of felonies. The orange are misdemeanor, class of misdemeanors, so DUIs, simple assaults, things of that nature. The yellow is going to be class 2 misdemeanor, disorderly conduct, underage consumption, any of those traffic offenses, like I said, that we become involved in and have to have a court trial on. The light blue gray area is juvenile offenses, and those include cases that we review and kick on for diversion, as well as ones that we formally prosecute. And then the little green is our juvenile abuse and neglect cases. Those are small but mighty. Those files are massive, and those cases will continue for a long period of time, and we work with the Department of Social Services in ways of not always filing on some of those. We like it when they can come to a resolution on some things and work with families without actually having to file on those or take children into custody. Last year was kind of an anomaly with that little 4 number. I can tell you we've made up for it this year. Within a 2-week time frame in May, we had, just in 2 weeks, in the month of May, I don't know if there's something in the water, we had 4 felony child abuse cases we filed, and most, you know, not all, but many times there is a companion case to that of the green box there of juvenile abuse and neglect cases. So those are troubling things to us. One of the things as we look at our case breakdown of what types of cases we prosecute, and we get asked what was the impact of COVID and what did we see? And while our case volume was down, what troubled me was our violent offenses, some of our child abuse offenses, those types of things. And I didn't specifically break those out on this pie graph here, but we didn't see a dip in those. And so we have kids at home, domestic violence victims at home, not having the outlet and the resources to report that we otherwise would through a trusted adult like a teacher or someone observing marks across a child's face, those types of things. And yet we still are seeing, primarily what was impacted was drug offenses in 2020. Last year then we saw those tick back up, but we're still maintaining a stronghold. In the past, some of our violent offenses have hung right between 22 to 25% of our felony offenses. And this year in particular, we're well over 30% of our offenses, of our felony offenses, our violent offenses. And that's troubling. What do we do to help people? How do we prevent those things from happening? Substance abuse is tied to, I'm hard pressed to think of a case, well, other than some of our child abuse cases, I guess, where that wasn't a factor. But, so we really need to get a handle on that. You see the DUIs went way down in 2020. They weren't out driving around. But that's kind of our breakdown of cases over the years. Misdemeanors, and this is a little harder to read, but I didn't know how to break that back out. One of the things I want to point out to everybody, and I get a little squeamish acknowledging this, I don't want people to think that you can just go smoke pot and there's going to be no consequence to that. We, particularly for underage individuals, I know there's science behind that, and that's concerning, are swinging the pendulum of we have to prosecute some of these offenses, and we need to be doing that, as well as those who are going to comply with going through the permitting process and legally selling medicinal marijuana, shouldn't be doing that and have us turn a blind eye to people who are illegally selling those products. So we need to find our balance in that regard. But I've heard from a number of people as we continue to broach this subject about a jail in our community and the need for that, and that we're just incarcerating people. And I think sometimes it's kind of an offhanded comment. I hope people aren't serious about it, but that we're incarcerating them for marijuana. Since my time as a baby prosecutor over in Union County, nobody was doing a day in jail on a misdemeanor marijuana offense. So that's not what we're looking at here. And if you look up here, last year, 0% of our misdemeanor cases. I think we had a case that we filed. So if you hear someone saying, well, when weed becomes legal, it's going to solve our problems with incarceration in our communities, please correct them. That's not an accurate statement, and they're misinformed. And if you felt that way, I'd be happy to discuss that further. But I'm going to tell you, that's why people are getting incarcerated. When a mom is kicking her infant child in the head and law enforcement responds and sees it, she's being incarcerated. When we have someone strangling their teenager, not in a joking fashion, but literally where his sister says his eyes were about to bug out of his head, that's why people are going to jail in our community. And I just want us to keep those things in perspective. We've got to figure out a way to respond, but it's not marijuana. That's not why people are sitting in our jail. Additional duties, more lighthearted than crime. We do all sorts of other things, some more boring than others in our office. We provide legal guidance to the Clay County commissioners and department heads, do some contract review, answer questions when it pertains to elections, help draft ballot questions for like our bond matters that go up there. Indigent matter proceedings, planning and zoning has taken up far more time than one might like it too. Always something lively going on there too, as you all know. COVID response was interesting, as you all know, in your various capacities, and trying to pivot in that regard, how we responded in the judicial system and what we could do, and continuance of court appearance, and trying to keep things moving for victims and things in that regard, and staffing in the whole 9 yards. We represent the county in Office of Hearing Examiner hearings and responses, tax appeals, complaints about department heads that seem unfounded to me. We've prevailed. And so those types of things. And then we also have our Deputy State's Attorney manages our grant compliance for a Violence Against Women Act grant reporting and statistical tracking that we do for that. And so that helps offset some money back to the county for prosecuting those domestic violence cases. And then as a result of doing all these things, we had, I don't know, if something in the water this morning, 3 different people could stop up to see us. They wanted some legal advice on things. And so I think lots of times people think that we're legal aid, and we're not. We actually cannot provide legal advice to citizens because we're barred from doing so by statute, since all the attorneys, all 3 of us, are full-time for the county. So that is kind of us in a nutshell. Does anybody have any questions about anything I didn't talk about, or? Yes?
First of all, is this information available online from your office, at your office?
No, this is just something I put together, but if you wanted that, I could get you some information. Yeah.
Okay. Number 2, and you may have covered this, but I couldn't follow it. Given the almost quandary of questions there are about marijuana and what's going to happen not only in the state but in the country, what a carte blanche legality of all marijuana products take any of the heat off the county jails in South Dakota?
I don't believe so, because I think what it's going to do is we're going to see an uptick, and we already kind of have over the years, of various substance abuse related DUIs. We see other tangential impacts, just like any substance. I had a case where there was a little guy that was 2 years old, and an officer was writing a parking citation on Main Street, freezing cold, sub-zero temperatures in the middle of the night, and heard a whimper out of that vehicle. And thank God he did. And broke in that window, saved this little guy in his little footy pajamas. And Dad was upstairs getting high, just on weed. So, I think there are things people don't think about. I don't see that helping our numbers for jail. People just aren't doing jail time for marijuana-related offenses. They're doing it for other things that sometimes come in conjunction with drug use. Sorry.
I saw your graph of the increase in crime, that right there. What do you think counts for that? You showed the percentages, but kind of the same, but the numbers are they've really doubled in the last 10 years.
In my observation, since I've been a prosecutor, criminal justice reform had good intents. I firmly believe it was about cost savings from the state, and that has shifted down to the localities. Don't want to build bricks and mortars in the prisons, but what they failed to do is reallocate that money to services and programming in our communities, because that's how you're going to keep people out of prison. And when it was just about the cost savings without funding it into the programs, and there has been some catch up to some of those things. Community-based treatment programming, functional family therapy has expanded into our communities. There have been some other, there's moral recognition therapy. There have been some other aspects of things. It's also been very interesting to see between rural communities and others, and we kind of fall somewhere in the middle there, getting access to those services. So that's been a challenge. I think by decriminalizing things, though, and saying, hey, you're not going to go to prison for this, we've lost the balance between the carrot and the stick, right? You need to incentivize, but if there's never any consequence, what's the incentive? So I think we've lost that balance, and we got to find that again. Yes.
Do you have a position on the ballot initiative involving the law enforcement center, November 8th?
Oh, thank you. Please pass. Please vote to pass that. If any of you have questions about that, I would be happy to answer those. I'm going to volunteer. Chief Brady would be happy to answer those questions. Sheriff Howe is incredibly knowledgeable. But, you know, it's costing us money. We're going to pay, and we pay to house our inmates out of county right now. We have been able to do some work release here on site, but it's really cumbersome for defense counsel to communicate with their clients. We've utilized ITV. I hear that from people all the time. Well, can't you just do video conferencing? When we have prisoners sitting in Minnehaha County, their judges may need that ITV during the times we need it. So we have utilized it where we can, but that's not the solve all, and it's really inconvenient. An attorney needs to be able to talk to their client sitting right next to them. They have constitutional rights, and they need to be able to walk through that process with good counsel, with good representation, and so those have been some of the challenges we've faced. I know there's a litany of others regarding transport and safety and all of those things, but I offer those up because I know that's something that we see. It impacts our criminal justice system in a negative way. So I think it's worth it. Obviously, the cost savings are there long term. We're not going to feel it right away, but long term, we're going to feel the pain if we don't do this from a financial standpoint. So would encourage everyone to vote yes. Yeah.
What's the impact then of the specialty courts on your workload?
We don't have a population big enough to be able to support those on our own. We would have to partner regionally with someone, but we've been able to piggyback off and utilize those for some people. We had a guy who was sent up to Veterans Court in Sioux Falls, and actually the victim on that case was kind of skeptical of that. And I said, listen, we don't have anything else. What's the harm in giving this a shot? I think this is what I'm going to do. I appreciate your frustrations with various things. And I wonder how he feels today. That young man just graduated from Veterans Court, so we're really excited. That's out of Sioux Falls is where that programming is at, and we get to piggyback off Yankton Drug Court. One of the things that's really beneficial to us about that is one of the tenets of the program is they have to reside in that community. So it's very nice of Yankton to take some of our substance abusers over to their community and support that process through there, and then they get court ordered through our probation services to move to Yankton, participate in that program. It's very intensive. So we do see a trickling of that benefit for the people who fit the criteria to meet the program. Anything else? All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.